I want to take just a minute and give you an update on what I think the future holds for Two Cities Church at the Cunningham Center. Let me start off by saying I hope that we're back to meeting again in person soon. I long for this just like you long for this. And the bottom line is we don't have a firm answer from the Board of Regents of the university system on when we'll be able to meet together in person again. But let me tell you what's been happening in my heart, and I believe what's been happening in Jesus's church all over America, all over the world this summer. In fact, let me talk to you from three different sources. First is the digital world. And most digital experts will tell you that the way that we're heading as a human race is very different than where we were in January and February of this year. In fact, they're saying we probably shouldn't use the language of normal or a new normal. What we should really be talking about is what's next, because what's next is not going to look like January or February of this past year. Did you know that this week, the McKinsey Institute, this huge research firm, surveyed people all across America and they talked to them about their shopping habits. And they published the results and they said there is this radical, fundamental shift that's happening right now with Americans. And here's what I think is fascinating. They said this shift is happening all across America, and people have said, we're not going back. Here's a basics of the results. 75% of people said, my shopping habits are different. I don't even buy the same brands. I don't shop the same way that I used to shop. And I'm not going back to the way that I used to shop in January or February. Many people said that I now look for a brand that's not just trying to get my money. I'm looking for a brand that shows me they care about me, they care about my safety. And almost all consumers said, I do my shopping online first. I still go to stores, but I do most of my shopping online. I shop first online, and then I will occasionally go to the stores when I need to try something on. 75% of them said, even if social distancing were over with, even if the virus had passed, I'm not going back to shopping the same way that I did in January and February. Which says, if you're in the retail industry, you ought to sit up and take notice, because people all across America, really around the world, their lives are changing rapidly right underneath your feet. And if you own a shopping center, if you own a retail space, I'm not sure how many people are going to come back to that retail space when this virus passes. That also says that if you're a church that owns a lot of buildings, those people are also indicating, I'm not going back to church the way that I did in January and February. So if you own millions of dollars worth of church space and you're not sure what it looks like in the future, I do know this: whatever it looks like, it's not going to look like January and February. So here's what I'm trying to say. God has blessed us. God has positioned us in such a way that we're a church that doesn't own a whole lot of buildings. We lease the space from the Cunningham Center. That means that we don't ultimately decide when we can go back to meeting in person. That decision is being made for us, not by the Board of Regents. Listen to me. It's not by the president of CSU. Ultimately, the Holy Spirit of the living God decides when Two Cities Church is going to be able to meet together in person again. I'm trying to listen to the Holy Spirit, and I'm trying not to just take my cues from the university system or from CSU. And that means when we do come back together again, we're going to do it in a way that is safe and healthy for everybody that shows up. But here's the third, and I think the most encouraging statistic. Here's the thing that I want you to go away with today. In March, when most churches all across America and around the world stopped doing in-person services and transitioned to online, in the month of March, just the month of March and only March, in one social media platform alone. Listen to this number. More than 130,000 people surrendered their soul to Jesus Christ in the month of March alone on one media platform alone in the United States. What that statistic tells me is even though churches aren't meeting together, even though people aren't able to come to a corporate worship service, God is still moving and redeeming humanity and calling men and women out of their sin and to themselves. And because the Holy Spirit is moving online, we as a church are also moving online. This summer, I've made a huge shift personally, and I've tried to help Two Cities Church make a shift practically so that we are now doing everything that we would normally do in person. We're now doing that online. In fact, the last step in this is our membership classes being transitioned to online. If you found us online, fall in love with us online, we want to help you be able to join us as a church online. I'm telling you all of this because what the future looks like for us is very uncertain, but I do know this: God has his hand on this church. God has his hand on his church. God's not surprised by any of this. God is at work in our midst. God is at work in our city, in our country, and all over the world. And I believe Two Cities Church is perfectly positioned so that we can make a transition and we can be there for people who are going to find us online. They'll fall in love with us online. They may stay connected to us online for a long time before they ever find us in person. Maybe some of them will find us from around the country or around the world and never be able to join us in person. For us, that's okay. We hope that online becomes a huge funnel where people can find our church. And then once they've gotten connected to us online, then they will eventually feel comfortable showing up in person. So as a church, we're moving towards being available and accessible for everything that we do online. And then one day being able to do all of those things and do them with excellence in person as well. This is just a few brief remarks about where we are as a church. I'm going to try to keep you updated as I know some more information, but I just want to tell you, I am excited. I'm genuinely thrilled about where we are right now, given what's happening around the world. And I'm really excited about what the future holds for a church without walls that's passionate about reaching their community and the world and advancing the gospel of our great King, Jesus Christ. Thanks for giving me just a few minutes for this brief update.